Welcome to another episode of Dubai Real Estate Unplugged, the official podcast of House & House. I'm your host, Luke Remington. Today we're diving into the world of luxury interior design in Dubai, and joining me is Josephine, Managing Director of Elementa. Josephine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You've got a really interesting background, and I know Elementa is a newer establishment and a new company to Dubai, but you seem to be gathering pace quite quickly. I actually believe, I can't say for sure, but I think I came across you on an Instagram page a couple of years ago, and I think I mentioned to you, and I was really taken back by what you were creating in that company before you moved. So do you want to just give us a rundown, a bit about you, and let the listeners know a bit about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, born and raised in the Netherlands, into a creative family. So dad is an architect, and the family business exists for over 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so from a very young age, it was very clear that I was going to follow his footsteps.
Okay.
So I did that. I did my best, I can say. So I've decided to do my studies in Milan, in Italy, both masters and a bachelor as well. And that has really brought me to the creative path that I'm following thus far. And recently I've started Elementa interior design, and it's been a lifelong dream. I've prepped my whole life for this moment.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's quite unusual, I would have thought, to go into the father's footsteps, and from when you talk about the Netherlands, I think architecture, that's one of the first words that would spring to mind if I thought of Europe and the Netherlands, and then obviously go into a very, very chic place to study like Milan, the fashion capital of the world potentially. How much has that brought to your design aspect now? It's obviously been a large part of your studying.
Yeah.
But how much has that influenced the way you create things?
Yeah, well, it definitely has given me a lot more time to think of what is beauty, and what is beauty for me is something else than something for you. But really having that upbringing of caring about the things around you, that has really left its mark. And
were you creative as a youngster?
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely.
Were you often walking around the house and puffing the cushions and telling your mum to change the colours?
Or change my whole room, like changing colours on the walls.
Okay.
Yeah, and putting your sisters into everywhere you could do. So,
interesting. So Dubai, how long have you been in Dubai?
For over a decade. I've worked for a lot of interior design firms, great ones, and I'm really building upon that experience.
Okay. And what has happened in the design front in Dubai over, let's say, that have you seen in the last decade? So for me, I've been in real estate in Dubai for just over a decade. And I think until probably, I don't know, maybe just before COVID, you wouldn't have seen the Instagram channels or the Facebook channels or the press with these beautiful homes that seem to be so often now. We see these beautiful homes, and Pinterest, I don't know how much it's looked at, but it's a well-researched website. What has changed have you seen over the last decade when we look at interior design? Yeah,
good question. I think overall, when we're talking about luxury interior design, the thing that we really focus on are high-end residential and hospitality projects. And so what we see a lot on the social media is that a lot of people are creating the renders, and it's render after render, so impression after impression. And I think our focus has always been building more than just for the aesthetics, and really building a story behind the design.
Yeah.
And I hope a lot of designers amongst us do the same, rather than just copying and creating the beige and the beautiful slick interiors.
And when it starts from the point of the client reaching out to Elementa and meeting Josephine, how does it start? Because you speak to someone like me who's, yes, I'm in real estate and I see beautiful properties, but how do I explain what I want to you for you to understand what you're going to deliver to me and I'm going to be happy with? Is it difficult to try and get that actual picture?
Right. So what we initially do is we start with a consultation. So we really get to know you, your wishes and your requirements. Following this, we'll move straight into the design process, where we're starting with a concept design stage, followed by 3D visuals. Then we're working on a detailed design drawing, so at least the contractor can build according to our design. When your project is going towards site, we're there on a weekly, site visits to make sure that everything is going to be built according to design intent. And following this, we're excited to see the end results. But usually, what we do, it depends per client. We've recently opened our own office in Golden Diamond Park, Building 7, where clients really get an idea of what they're gonna get. They can see the finishes in our own office, but they also get to see all of the other materials. They get really a hands-on experience and meet the team behind it. So we're trying really to always be as transparent as possible.
And interestingly for me, have clients' needs changed massively over the last 10 years? I know fashions do, and if we look back at our parents, the way they dressed and the way we dress and the way our grandparents, there's over time fashions change.
Right.
What have you seen over the last decade in the changes? Because everything is very modern these days. The way I don't know the right wording for the travertines or the marbles but everything is very, very modern. Do you find clients coming to you with a clear, I want this, Josephine, or are they happy to say, this is what we like, but I trust you. You've been doing this for a decade. You're creative. You've studied in Milan. We're going to leave you to it.
Happens as well.
Okay. More so or less so?
More so, I would say lately. There's very often clients that come with a ready-made Pinterest board.
Yeah.
And they've got already very clear ideas of what they want, because lately it's so accessible for our clients. But we would really like to, of course, get a clean, start from a clean slate and start from there.
If I come to you with a Pinterest board, do you like that or do you not like it? Just honestly speaking.
It does help. It does help very often. The more we get to know our clients, the better it is.
Yeah.
And if that works, then it's great. If you don't have them ready, then we can really use our imagination and just deliver and hopefully exceed the expectations.
What would you say when you're doing these projects? I saw your directory recently, and I saw some of these 20,000 square feet villas. I think you mentioned off air before. We've got one with 3 elevators in a property. You've got one with 3 kitchens, and Dubai is very bling bling, and even when you see all new developments being launched, everyone's trying to outdo each other, and you're thinking, what can actually be next? So what are you hearing from these clients at the moment? Are you having any unusual requests of?
Definitely. The usual products or the projects that we're really creating are indeed, the 24 parking lots, 2 elevators, multiple show kitchens.
24 parking lots.
Yeah. So we're in a way designing boutique design hotels. You can really say that.
Okay.
And we don't have one project. We got a couple of these projects running, and it's really great to see. But the client's imagination is very often very aligned as well. Like, they want to have the waterfalls in their basements. They want to have, the newest design. So the requests are usually quite normal to us. But yeah.
What are you used to working on more? The apartments, the villas, and you say, who's the typical client that's going to come out to approach you at the moment? Is it going to be, am I going to be approaching you if I've got $1 million dirham budget? Am I going to be approaching you saying, or are you going to be saying, look, you need to be spending X, Y, Z for me to take you on this journey?
Right.
What do you typically, what kind of client? I know you mentioned hotels as well.
Yeah. So lately we are taking on hospitality projects, but when we're talking about residential projects, it's usually the clients that have some, what is it again? The money to spend.
I was going to say bluntly, they've got quite a lot of cash to spend, right?
Right. Yeah. So when we're talking about a 5-bedroom villa, you really are looking at a 4 million budget to invest when it comes to interior design.
Yeah.
But usually for the bigger mansions, that could go up towards 10 mil or 15 mil, and we're very transparent about that. We involve the contractors in there as well, just to get a very clear calculation in there, and they know what to expect.
Interesting. You mentioned contractors. At what stage, and I probably fell foul of this myself, I brought in an interior designer too late. At what stage should the client be making contact with the interior designer?
Ideally, we would like to be quite early on board. We are working with some architects at the same stage as they start, so we're very much working hand in hand with them. Why? Because architects, they decide where the walls are going to be, where the windows are going to be, and then when we are designing from inside out, we tend to tell the architects, let's move the windows slightly towards that side or make them bigger, open it all up. So that's quite a nice stage to work on and to get straight on board when the architects start.
And you're then taking into consideration the light into the property, the colour palette, and all these kind of things going on, so on and so forth. A property recently sold on the Palm Jumeirah. It sold for 275 million dirhams for an apartment. So I think when we understand that there are a lot of high net worth individuals coming into Dubai at the moment, and a lot of these have the budget to be spending this kind of money that you're talking. When you initially speak to clients, are they somewhat surprised about the cost of what they're going to be spending? Because I've always felt that you speak to an interior designer and they gave you this high price and you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting it to be that high. But I'm then showing you pictures of these marbles and these, you know, I don't know, these sit and taps or these things that are quite expensive to source. And then when you sit down and you go through it, then you probably understand, well, the interior designer and architect is there to give me the truth and tell me what I need to hear rather than what I would like to hear and not deliver that.
That's right.
You know, not deliver something. I want this, but I'm actually only got the budget for this.
Yeah.
Is this difficult conversations to have with clients?
Usually, yeah. I mean, people from all around the world come to Dubai to really expect the highest standards, and they expect some quality as well. And we always try to deliver these and to really answer their needs, but it has to be realistic as well. But initially, we can work with any budget the client has.
And you are working in a team at Elementa with others, so it's not just Josephine. You meet Josephine and you stay with Josephine. You could be there's a team around you providing these beautiful renders that I see all the time over the social media as well. You're providing these.
Yeah, that's right. So we're working with a lovely team that is backing me up every step of the way. But they're also really designing outstanding interior design. And
the clients that you're working with, Josephine, do they need to meet you? Are they Zooming you? Because I assume that a lot of the people with these budgets, they're not necessarily living here. They could be holiday homes. Can they facilitate what they want you to provide over Zoom, or do they need to be here, or do you need to, you know, how does it work? Is it difficult? Well, it's a very personal thing. Designing someone's home is incredibly personal. So what we usually do is we really try to get to meet the client and get to the core and get an understanding of what their needs and desires are. And that's for us also much easier to design towards too. Okay. And that property journey, we have touched on it, but the property journey for an owner, what would it tend to kind of, it's probably how long's a piece of string, because it depends on the size of the property. You know, you talked about 20,000 square foot villa, and you've talked about boutique hotels, and I'm sure you've probably done a 3-bedroom villa. I think I saw one in Arabian Ranches that it looked pretty stunning. Is there a typical timescale, or is that a stupid question to ask because it depends on the needs and the wants of the client? No, it's all right. So usually what it takes for a 3-bedroom villa is between 3 to 6 months. But a very realistic, for a massive mansion, it could take a year up to 2 years or even longer. Wow. And then that's also something the clients should really be aware of. During that 2 years, I'm assuming you're dealing not just with the clients, that you're holding hands probably with the project managers, you're holding hands with the construction company, and there's probably teething problems that tend to happen. We're very much the middleman. We do tend to work with project managers as well that are really handling both the contractor as well as the interior designers. But it's a long process usually, so we tend to make it joyful and make it fun. How has it been over the last 10 years in terms of the construction, and have you seen improvements in construction? Because I think this is I know we haven't necessarily discussed this, but a lot of people probably feel that the quality of a Dubai build is not one that would maybe be found in Europe, or that, I think that's the general feel, that the tradesmanship is probably not as qualified. that's what I would assume from speaking. These were knocked up 20 years ago, Luke, and how do you feel it's gone over the last 10 years? You're seeing these constructions, you're going to these big sites. Is there a lot more detail going into them, and construction is improved? I know you're not a construction worker, and you're not the project manager.
Yeah, well, it's our job really to create something beautiful. But what I see lately in new buildings and new developments is different materials, lighter materials, which is really great. But I'm hoping also we're going to go much more towards the durable materials. So at least, the buildings are there for lifelong.
Durable materials, you're talking about kind of longevity of these materials to help the planet and stuff like this, right?
Yeah, many more buildings have to be lead generated and built as well, so it's an important factor.
Any other peculiar requests from clients at the moment? 3 kitchens seems to be OTT, but
minimum.
it seems to. I suppose if you've got a few chefs working for you and you have, you're quite hungry, then it could be useful. 24 parking spaces, 3 lifts. Any other, I don't know, peculiar requests that you tend to receive on
Not at the moment. I mean, they're all quite private requests as well, since you're designing someone's home. But when we're really looking at the hospitality projects, just recently I was invited by one of the big hotel chains in the world, and they've invited me to come over to Qatar to really design a new beach lounge.
Wow.
And it's really going to be the first one in the region, and it's going to be an El Chiringuito kind of concept.
That must be really exciting to go from your typical residential family, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, or with 2 kids that want to design the house, and then maybe you're changing to maybe a more local family that have, the father, the mother, the children, the grandparents living there, and then you go to a hotel chain that want beach clubs. So you literally can cater for all aspects across the market. Right.
I mean, when we're talking about high-end residential and high-end hospitality projects, that's right.
Where are most of your projects happening at the moment? Can you give us any ideas on those?
A few areas: Dubai Hills, Not Al Sheba, Arabian Ranches, but we're also talking to clients on the Palm and Jumeirah Bay Island. So those are the key areas.
And these all tend to be kind of 20, 30 million plus.
That's right.
Price dirham villas, right?
Yeah, and that's what you're good at, selling these beautiful properties.
When we were looking at the Q3 reports on generally how the market is, there is an undersupply of these luxury properties that people want, but not all these luxury properties are, certainly when you're looking at the Palm, they are luxury, but they were built a long time ago. Not necessarily has everyone upgraded them. Some people want to find those properties that they can put their stamp on it, and I can convey to Josephine what I want and you deliver what I want, rather than me taking on what someone else has potentially put in there. From your perspective, how has the luxury design market in Dubai evolved recently, and where do you see it heading?
Ooh, good question. I mean, look, the people that came over here that are really expecting these high-end experiences, it's something that involves really some work from our end. We really need to deliver, and we really need to deliver quality. So it's not easy keeping them happy, especially because they've got high expectations. But we always making sure that we make the impossible possible. I know I've tried to catch up with you quite a few times, and just even arrange and speak to you here, and you always seem to be on a plane travelling somewhere. Do you take much notice of what's going on around in the world? Let's say you're keeping an eye on maybe this building that's been done in Miami, or this building that's I recently saw a port building that's going to be ridiculous prices in Bangkok. How much notice do you take of what other interior designers are there any particular interior designers that have influenced your career? Absolutely, so I think it's very important that you stay on top of what's new, speak to the suppliers, get to know about their latest products, and see what they're doing. When it comes to designers around me, I always follow, of course, everyone. I'm usually, from most of the design firms in Dubai, I'm their number one fan, so it's good to have great competitors. Apart from that, recently I went to Madrid with Cosentino. They're the biggest surface supplier in the world, and I not only met great people there, but I also now know about their latest technologies and how they're making their products. Which makes a big difference to the client, right? Because you can explain with enthusiasm and knowledge
exactly how it's going to happen.
Yeah, and then we've got the design fairs as well. I mean, Maison and Objet in Paris is next year. Salone del Mobile is coming up as well in April. So these are really the fairs you want to be at and see what else is out there and what's new.
Real estate agents, we're a real estate company. We know there's thousands of them around. We know there's thousands of brokers, there's thousands of companies. It's difficult to choose who to use and why to use them, and maybe more so with real estate brokers, because people say we all say the same thing, and we actually we have values at House and House, and we want to work with reputable developers, and we certainly won't sell with anyone, and we won't recommend people because it's not good on on ourselves. There's a lot of interior designers in Dubai. What does make the difference to you? Do you believe if I come to see you at Elementa, what does make the difference with an Elementa experience compared to maybe someone else? Because they are, I'm sure I don't mean to be harsh, but there are lots and lots around.
That's
and I just feel it is really difficult. It's like if I come to Dubai and I'm looking for a new property, how many developers are there? And there's a new development being launched every 19 hours. I'm not saying there's a new interior design company. There's so many out there.
Yeah.
How do I decide if they've got a good Instagram channel? Do I go to them? If they've got a good website, do I go to them?
Right. That's one way. I mean, usually we get our clients through architects as well as word of mouth, commercials. But apart from that, you can never compare really apples to apples. We are very often being compared. Don't get me wrong. Very often clients are window shopping. Yes, you are part of an Excel sheet. But at the same time, it's that we stand for what we're delivering, and I think
you would explain the projects that you've done and then seen your concept. Then probably I would assume people are just being comfortable with Josephine to say,
right.
Trust must be a massive part of it.
That as well. We always welcome our clients into our office, so they really get to meet the team, get to see the products and also the projects, and it's a matter of trust as well, I would say.
Hugely. You reach out to the younger generation as well, Josephine. Is that to inspire them, and can you tell us a bit more about that?
I mean, I'm always a big supporter of new talents and fresh graduates and what they're creating. I think they're the future. Yeah. What I'm planning to do soon is I'm going to be part of a design academy, being a lecturer, at least being a jury when it comes to their thesis project. So that's really cool. Soon we'll also roll out an internship program to more so learn from them, but to also give a little bit back to the community, because that's what we find.
That must be
important.
inspirational for you to be, and I think we can only get better by continuously learning, right, and getting ideas, and not necessarily all the ideas that we get we agree with,
right,
but something we could offer to a client to be like, wow, well, that's come from a graduate or something, or these kind of things. So graduates takes us into the era of AI and technology, and how is this affecting interior design? I had some are they called CGIs? Yeah, CGIs done, and this was done in a property in London, and I also had it done in a Dubai property going back 4 or 5 years ago. And I remember saying to the interior designer, I remember looking at the interior designer in the eyes and saying, these look amazing, but will my property look like that? Yeah. And the interior designer said to me, yes, it will look exactly like that. To even the border rail, it was literally a copy and paste. How is technology impacting interior design?
Yeah, I think right now we're with the team already making a lot of use of AI. What we're doing, we've got 3D visualizers that are designing these great visuals. It takes them about a week to design one big visual, and you're looking into more areas. We then still use AI to just lighten up the space, or to really add that landscape behind, the interior. So that way we use it already. Another thing we're really excited to integrate and also implement is ArchiCAD. It's a program that architects around us are already using a lot. It's a program where we are working in 3D, but the client also gets to download the app and gets to walk through the villa. And I think that's something that is necessary.
Is this with the goggles and those things that I've seen, or
not even? It's just on an app, and when you're using the zoom in, the zoom out buttons, you get to walk through the space. So it's
So on that, would you say if you were designing a house 10 years ago, you have got, the client is a bit more unknown, right? They're taking your thoughts and your words and your expressions and your mannerisms that you're going to do this in the pinks and the creams and this and that. Whereas now today, they pretty much know before you start doing anything, well, this is the way it's going to look and I really like it. So it's changed quite a lot for you. Yeah. Has it got easier or more difficult?
I would say it's quite a little bit more difficult. Okay. Why so? Because a lot of people just use Pinterest images during the concept stage, for example, and people don't really get to understand how their space is actually going to look like. Yeah. So we really still use handmade sketches. We can also back it up with SketchUp render, so at least it gets a little bit more visual for the clients. But the last thing we want to do is copying and pasting, and we truly really want to build something new every time.
And that's what I particularly like. When I go to experts, I'm pretty much saying, I like this, but please give me your opinion as the expert. Yeah. Am I on the right track? Is there going to be enough light coming through the windows to allow that black sofa or that Balinese style whatever? You agree or you disagree, and does it cause friction between clients? Or no, Josephine, I want this and I want you to do exactly what I'm saying. Well, is there any point in employing you?
Well, we'll always find a middle way. Okay. Let's put it that way.
But it can get a bit...
It could definitely, but I think to start with, it's good that we are very often educating clients about what is beauty. Yeah. So if it fits into the space, if we rather use it somewhere else, we could always, of course, work with whatever material a client is then suggesting. But it's always a conversation rather than a hard yes or no.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. It's great. It's been great having you today, Josephine. It's really interesting for me, obviously, being in this kind of business. But before we wrap up, how can our listeners get in touch with Elementa for their next luxury design? And have you got any last words?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're looking to revamp your interior or your whole house, then feel free to have a look at our website. It's elementainterior.com. And last words, thank you very much for having me. It was really great getting to know you better. Yeah, indeed. And being here.
Indeed. And hopefully I will have a property at some stage that you can be revamping. You did a superb job on our office.
Thank you.
Which and I'm not just saying this, the amount of clients that come in and say, wow, this is just, it's different. And I feel that was the difference. And what we wanted is we didn't want an interior copy paste from Pinterest, which I feel is so often around these days. Yeah. We wanted to go to you and be like, what are your feelings? What are the employees working here? You know their average age. You know what they're doing all day. What is the space that we need to create for them? And you came up with it, and you smashed it out the park. So that's all for today's episode. A big thanks to Josephine and to all our listeners. Be sure to subscribe to Dubai Real Estate Unplugged for more insights into the world of design and real estate in general in Dubai. Thanks ever so much, and see you next time.